Hi, I'm Veronica Rogers. Welcome to the Neptune Bash, benefiting Manatee Children's Services, one of our most important organizations here in Manatee County. Tonight, we'll meet a lot of interesting individuals. We have keynote speakers, great bands, a lot of great people, silent auction, so stay tuned. We're here with Chief Bill Tokacher. Wow, 26 years as board president?
Yes, ma'am. I've enjoyed every year of it.
Tell me a little bit about you've seen the growth and the changes.
We have gone from a small organization that's just focused on helping kids and breaking the cycle of child abuse to a huge organization with many programs for not just the kids, but also to teach parents to be parents and grandparents to be parents, as the new thing right now is that the grandparents are taking over when the parents can't.
And so many children, and people don't really realize that this resource is available to them, the Manatee Children's.
Yes, we have shelters, we have group homes, we have programs, and it's good to get the word out to the people, let them know the work that's being done by this organization. Our crew that we have here, they're just tremendous. They have a real love for the kids, and the work that they're doing is outstanding, and it really does help to break the cycle of child abuse.
And so many people are unaware of how to get a hold of you or what they can do to help.
Our executive director is Melinda, and she's an amazing resource. She's willing to go and talk to any group, and it's easy to get a hold of us. It's a 941-345-1200. Ask for Melinda, and she'll be there to help in any way that she can in educating people as to what we do.
So 25 years ago, tell me the difference between the resources that were available to people then, 25 years ago, and the growth that you've seen.
25 years ago, we were just this little organization that had a simple shelter, and it was a lot of people that were wanting to help, a good board of directors, and it's grown into where we have our own building now. We're not working out of a storefront. We have a huge shelter that's the first resource for the kids that are abused and neglected, and we have group homes so that it's not an institutional basis for the kids, so that they can grow up in an actual home with home parents and go to school and get all the resources that are necessary so that they grow up to be productive citizens.
And what type of services do you provide when they're in the home? Tell me.
Everything from school resources to tutoring to mentoring to psychological, because there's a lot of hurts that these kids have, and we have the resources to give them all-around services for everything that they might need.
And how long can they stay with you? Is there a time limit or?
They do age out, but our group homes are set so that they can stay in that group home and grow with the other kids that are in that group home and attend the schools in that area. Our shelter is a little bit less of a time that they stay there. Unfortunately, a lot of kids stay in the shelter longer than we would like to have seen.
And so typically, do they go to a foster family from there? Do they go home?
From the shelters, sometimes they go home if their parents meet the criteria and can take them home. Sometimes they go to family, grandparents, sometimes foster care.
And tonight, what a great event you have here. Tell me a little bit about tonight.
This is the first time we're doing the Neptune Bash. We've done a country night for many years, and this is a different venue. It's going to be great. We're really going to have a good time tonight, and hopefully everybody will come out and have a great time with us.
You've got tables, and then you've got the silent auction. You got the Billy Rice Band playing.
Yeah, Billy Rice has been with us for years. What a guy. He is always right there helping out anytime that we've ever asked for Manatee Children's Services. He's been on the board, and he's been a resource for us, and we're just happy to have him here. He's an amazing musician.
Well, Chief, good luck tonight, and we hope all goes well, and thank you for all you do to help the children in Manatee County.
Thank you very much.
We're here with Gigi Kelly. Gigi, who is the COO of Manatee Children's Services.
That's right.
Thank you. Gigi's been with Manatee Children's Services 15 years.
Yes, 15 wonderful years. I love it.
Tell me a little bit about the growth of the organization since you've been involved.
When I first started with MCS back 15 years ago, we had about 8 programs. We now have 14. We help, on average, about 14,000 children and their family members every year.
14,000 in Manatee County.
In Manatee County. Our biggest program is Kids Personal Safety, and she goes out into the school system and educates children on how to recognize and report child abuse.
And what is the need mainly? I mean, you say you service 14,000 children.
The predominant need we're seeing, the trend is, as it's been in the newspapers, is neglect through substance abuse. We're seeing a lot of that in our parenting program, BRIC parenting program. A lot of our parents, unfortunately, are drug addicted and lost their children to neglect and are working their way back to get their children back. So it's a very horrible situation, but the parents that we're working with are really working hard to get their kids back.
And I know you see these children as they come in. Do you have any success stories that you'd like to share of people that have you've seen flourish through this program?
Oh, absolutely. We have one. The first one that comes to my mind is a young lady that came into our shelter. She was about 12. And she stayed in our shelter for about 2 months and then moved into our girls group home and graduated high school and went to college and called just about 12 months ago and said, I just wanted to call and thank y'all. I just graduated. I'm a registered nurse and I'm looking forward to giving back to the community. So.
Wow, and people don't realize that the support that you give that can change a life for the better and the impact that you have on them.
It's extremely rewarding. I often have people say to me, how can you do what you're doing working with child abuse victims, and how can you not, is the answer.
And that 1 ounce of hope for that individual, that success story, for them to be a registered nurse and be able to come back and serve in our community.
Yes, it's very rewarding. I love where I work and I love the people I work with.
If you would say one thing you would love people to know about Manatee Children's Services, what would it be?
I think to educate themselves on and take a stand for children. If they suspect abuse or neglect going on, call the toll-free abuse hotline, 1-800-96-ABUSE, and report it. You can do it anonymously, and it could save their life.
And do you educate children in the schools, or how do you educate children? I mean, because I know their peers could also have an impact on their life.
Sure. Well, the one I mentioned earlier, Kids Personal Safety, certainly has a huge impact. Every year she has about 50 to 70 kids that come up and report that it's happening to them. So I know she's saved lives. But that's one of 14 programs that, and 50 of my colleagues that I work with, I'm very proud of. So.
And tell me about tonight.
Tonight is spectacular. You
it's
can't,
beautiful.
The view is to die for. The food is fabulous. I've been seeing them prepare it, and we've got some awesome auction items that I'm looking forward to seeing the live auction. It'll be fun.
Well, thank you for all you do to make a difference in our children's lives.
We're glad you're here. Thank you. Enjoy.
Thank you so much, Gigi.
Nice to meet you.
We're here with Jessie Carr, Vice President of Manatee Children's Services. Jessie, we're here at the Neptune Bash.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about your involvement.
Well, I'm on the board of directors for Manatee Children's Services, in which we help the executive members of the company run the company, and we advise them and we keep track on how the company's doing. We help prepare for fundraisers and the business of the Manatee Children's Services. We make sure that they are doing their job, and the success of the company and of what we do is to help abused children. And it's very important for all the board members to help make sure that the children are getting the best care and the best follow-up, as well as the families. And it's not just for abused children. We help the mothers, the fathers, if there's a abusive situation that happens inside the family. We're there to help the whole family.
And that's a good point.
Get everybody back together.
Yeah, and when I was talking to Gigi earlier, she said 14,000 children that you service, and we forget about the family aspect. Tell me some of the support that you give to the families.
Well, at first, if there's a problem in the family, we separate everybody. And then we have doctors on staff that do physical checks and make sure everybody is all right. And then we bring the families together, and we have counselors and doctors who help prepare and to get a plan to make them get the family back together again. So we have professionals in anger management and take care of everybody.
And Gigi was telling me, I asked her about if there was one success story. Do you have a success story?
What do you mean?
Well, as far as with a young adult, a child, the family that you've seen really prosper and grow from being, taking advantage of the services at Manatee Children's Services.
Well, I haven't personally seen anybody or anything like that, but I've I've met a lot of the children that are in the group homes as well as the emergency shelter homes. So I've been there to help them and to be there and to find out what's going on and kind of help as much as I can.
And if there is one thing that you would like people to take away from tonight, what would it be, Jesse?
Well, we're here for the kids. I mean, there is a reason for this. This is why we raise funds and help money so that we can run our organization as efficiently as possible and to give the care to the children. Because this is the reason we're here, to help abused children and to bring families back together again, because that's our ultimate goal. Sometimes it doesn't happen, but a lot of times it does. And for the kids that are completely taken away from the families, we take care of them and help them. They live in our group homes and they prosper because we're setting them up and get ready for adult life.
Well, Jesse, thank you so much for all you do for Manatee Children's Services, and we're looking forward to a great night.
Yes, we are. Thank you.
We're here with Melinda Thompson, the heart and soul of Manatee Children's Services. Melinda, what a great night.
Thank you very much. We are really thrilled tonight to have all these folks here to come support the agency and the mission to eliminate child abuse in our community.
And tell me a little bit about this evening. A lot of exciting things, silent auction, Billy Rice Band playing.
We do. We have Billy Rice, of course, coming to sing for us tonight. Henry Lawrence is also going to make an appearance. We have a guest speaker tonight. Her name is Jenna Quinn. She's a national speaker on child abuse. And we have some real delicious food, great auction items, fantastic live auction items. Our MC is Lee J. Pope, and our auctioneer is John Vita.
And I know you've got a million things to do, and you're behind the scenes, so I want to thank you so much for taking a minute to talk to us. Anything you want people to take away from this evening?
I just really appreciate everybody for coming and supporting our Child Advocacy Center here in Manatee County.
Thank you so much. We'll let you get back to work, and all the visitors and sponsors, I'm sure you're thankful for that.
Thank you very much.
All right. What is one thing you want people to know about the importance of Manatee Children's Services?
I think really, our organization serves over 14,000 children and families in this community every single year. And the impact that we have is tremendous. And I would really encourage folks to come down and see our Advocacy Center and find out about the programs that we offer in Manatee County.
And how can people get in touch with you?
You can go to our website. It's www.manateechildrenservices.com, or give us a call at 941-345-1200.
Thanks so much. Many successes this evening.
Thank you.
We're here with John Vita tonight at the Neptune Bash, and you're going to be doing the auction tonight.
I will. I'm really looking forward to it. I think we're going to have a great night and have lots of great bidding going on, so it should be really exciting.
What kind of cool things do you have tonight?
Well, there were some really awesome pieces of art that were done by the children from one of the organizations. And then there's some trips. There's a trip to Costa Rica. There's a limousine for 26 people. There's an awesome package that will be a family portrait with a stay at the Ritz-Carlton, either in New York or over in Palm Beach. So there's really some great stuff, I think some stuff for everybody.
And do you have a goal, or does the Children's Services have a goal of what they're trying to raise tonight?
I don't know. They didn't tell me, but my goal is always, is as much as possible. So we do some wonderful things for the bidders, and we try to get the excitement really going. And we start the bids a little low so that everybody feels like they're involved, and then raise them up. And whoever wants to be the highest bidder can take it home.
Perfect. And how long have you been involved with Manatee Children's Services, John?
We came to Manatee County in like 1976, and I went away and started my career in New York, and then came back in 94, and so it's 94-ish, 95-ish. It was amazing. I was talking to Bill Tokager today, and he was telling me how long he's been president of the organization, and
like 25 years.
Like 25, 20. I think he said 26.
Yeah.
So I just said, I don't think it's been that long, but Bill's an amazing guy, and it's amazing that people can stay involved with an organization for that long. But when it's such a great organization, does so many good things, I think it's an easier thing.
And helps so many children and their families. Tell me, is there one thing you want people to take away from tonight?
I just think that when you take away that children are our future, and you look at, that we've really, they're our greatest asset, and you've really got to support them and bring them into the fold of things. And there's so many things that we can do for children, not only financially, but we can be good mentors, we can be good people, and it's just all about the kids, and we just need to, really bring them along and save every single one of them we possibly can.
So true. So many of their children obviously couldn't pick their homes, and they do have bright futures. Gigi was telling me a little bit about a success story of one of the young adults that came there, and now she's a nurse. So.
Right. Yeah, it's amazing, and you look at all these kids, and over the years you hear the stories about where they've gone and what they've done, and how they've progressed and everything else. And then you see them coming back and understanding that and helping to pitch in to help the cause. So I think that's when you realize you've done a really great thing, is when those that you've helped have come back around and are helping others.
Well, thanks for all you do for Manatee Children's Services, and we hope you raise a lot of money tonight.
We're gonna go.
Let's go. All right. We're here with Jenna Quinn, who is the keynote speaker tonight, author, activist. Jenna, tell me a little bit about your background.
Well, it all started when my family met this other family. I was in the second grade, and unfortunately, this family we were very close with, there was a man that stepped several boundaries and ended up sexually abusing me for about 4 years. Yes, and 90% of the time, a child is perpetrated on by someone that they know, but not only know, trust. And so, it was very, very difficult for my family and I. I went to a private Christian school, and this happened, of course, in a Christian context. And so it was a very, very, very difficult for the school to come to terms with. And we decided to press charges afterwards. And thank goodness he received 20 years in prison.
And was that recently that he got his sentence finally?
He finally got his sentence when I was 16 years old. So we're actually coming up on a little anniversary. It was November 10th, 2004.
Wow, and that must be, so powerful. And for you to do all that you're doing now and have gone through it yourself and really understanding.
It really, really, for me, it gives a lot of purpose. And, I know that God will never ever allow pain without purpose. And for me, it's just such a blessing to be able to have come out on the other side and really, really advocate for those kids who can't really speak up and can't really, get help for themselves. And that's what the Children's Advocacy Center is there for. I received services right away after making my outcry from the Children's Advocacy Center. And my goodness, before we found them, we were so lost. We didn't have a clue. You know, the biggest question when I self-disclosed to my family was, what do we do now? Like, what is our next step? I mean, it took everything my father had not to go over there and take matters into his own hands. So after we called the police, then the Advocacy Center stepped in, and I received counseling. My parents received counseling, so they do free counseling services for victims, the victim's family, and they also provided me with court preparation. So it's very traumatic for a lot of these kids. Imagine going and standing on the witness stand, and they're just a few feet away from the perpetrator, and they have to rehash and talk about everything all over again with them standing, you know, right there looking at them. So the Advocacy Center really helped with preparing me on what that looks like and what to expect.
And here with Manatee Children's Services, you know, I've talked to Gigi, I've talked to Melinda, and really learned of them helping 14,000 children. What would you say about, you know, just what their services mean to people that have gone through this?
Well, one of the most important things I can say is it truly is a matter of life and death. It is life or death, because for me, I was either going to go to Green Oaks Mental Hospital or the Advocacy Center, and I was in that severe of a condition, and we really weren't sure what the center was going to be able to do. We weren't sure if they were going to be able to help us at all, honestly, but once we stepped in there, we felt such a sense of support and such a sense of community, and that is what is the most important thing that they give survivors, because many survivors, many of these kids, they feel like they're alone in their struggles. They feel like they're the only ones going through what they're going through. So to have the center there to provide all of that communal support and counseling services, you know, and they provide other needs as well. If there's school supply needs, clothing needs, you know, they provide all of these, and they're all a free service. So it truly is a matter of life or death for these children, and now they can continue to grow because they plant seeds of hope for these children.
And how many years did it take for you to get through your event, your ordeal?
After I self-disclosed, I started going to the Advocacy Center, and the prison sentence happened a year later. So it was a year later, and I went into services at the Advocacy Center for a couple of years, and I went twice a week to see a counselor individually. And she really, really, really helped me with years of just identity crisis and confusion and all kinds of feelings that these survivors are left with after they've, you know, self-disclosed. So.
Absolutely. And tell me, I mean, you're doing work everywhere. Tell me a little bit about what you're doing.
Well, I am so grateful to travel and speak nationally about, child sexual abuse and other forms of maltreatment, and really bringing awareness to the advocacy centers and making sure that those stereotypes are changed. There's a lot of stereotypes out there for victims and survivors, and for me, my goal is to break those stereotypes and really make sure that survivors understand there's no shame involved with any type of sexual assault. There should be no shame at all involved. And, in 2009, Texas actually did a really, really great thing. Texas, big old Texas, in one of the largest states in the U.S. in a down economy. Governor Perry at the time signed Jenna's Law, which is named after me. And it mandates that all schools, kindergarten through 12th grade, have to train school staff, parents, and students on the signs and symptoms of sexual assault, but not just sexual assault, all forms of maltreatment that we have these days. So it's just been a wonderful journey to be able to, turn all that pain into action and advocacy.
And what an impact you've had in people's lives and now in the schools. And you've written a book, and you're an author and a renowned national speaker.
It's really wonderful, and it's very humbling at the same time. When I first started all of this, I had to ask myself, is this something I'm comfortable with everyone knowing? And a lot of the time, most people keep it to themselves if they've been through something like that. But hopefully, we can change that. We can change the fact that it's okay to say that you've had something happen. It's okay to say that you've gone through something, because, saying something and making that self-disclosure is the first step to healing, and making those steps to move forward. And so my goal, my hope, and my prayer is for several survivors to be doing exactly what I'm doing.
And tonight we're here at the Neptune Bash. Beautiful on the water. Tell me, as the keynote speaker, what do you want people to take away from tonight?
I really want people from this community to take away a sense of understanding about the Manatee Center. There are so many lives that are affected, so many children, young, 6-month-olds, little babies, so many kids that come in because they've gone through horrific abuse in their lives, and their lives are forever changed after they've gone through something like this. So I really want people to understand that it is an epidemic. It is a social epidemic. It's 1 in 3 girls are sexually assaulted before the age of 18, and 1 in 6 boys are sexually assaulted by the age of 18.
And I think we live in our own little worlds and we don't really understand or know those statistics. So, Jenna, I know you've got a lot to prepare for your keynote, but thank you for making such a great impact on our society.
Thank you. Thank you for doing everything you can to help get the word out. So.
Absolutely. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're here with Dr. Isaac this evening, the pediatrician for Manatee Children's Services. Dr. Isaac, thank you so much. So glad to see you.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here, and hopefully we're going to be able to do a lot more for kids as the awareness and the funding becomes more available for children who are abused in Manatee County.
And tell me, how long have you been helping with Manatee Children's Services?
I've been the medical director of the Child Protection Team since 1989.
Wow, amazing. And I'm sure you've seen a lot of trauma and just personal effect for those children.
Unfortunately, more than we'd like to, but I think it's an important job that needs to be done, and hopefully we're able to be helpful for the children to minimize the effects of any abuse or neglect that they've been subjected to, and try and end the cycle of child abuse.
Absolutely. And tell me one thing you would like people to take away from tonight or knowing about Manatee Children's Services.
Unfortunately, the child abuse and sexual abuse in Manatee County exists, and I think that the more public awareness and the more funding that's available to help with these children to get them over their trauma and help them lead a normal life in the future, I think is a very valuable goal that we're aiming for.
Well, thank you so much for all you do to help save those children. We appreciate it, and I hope you have a great evening.
Well, thank you very much.
We're here with Pat Glass at the Neptune Bash, benefiting Manatee Children's Services. Pat, so glad to have you here this evening.
Well, it's my delight, and proud I am of the job you've done. All the people that are involved, I don't think people understand the number of organizations that are dedicated to children and trying very hard to pull together, but it's a changing world.
And tell me a little bit about your involvement, which has been exponential.
Well, I was elected to the county commission in 1978, believe it or not, and I was working in aging services. I had the area agency on aging, and people used to joke and say, well, then you don't really worry about children. All you're concerned about is old people. And I said, well, understand, children grow up to be old people. And the way you take care of them at those years define the way they're going to grow up and what their life is going to be and what a family is all about and all of those really good things. So you can't but help touch the lives of children.
And when I was talking to Gigi earlier, they, service 14,000 children and the impact that they have on our lives. Tell me what you've seen.
I've seen the growth of two lovely schools, several schools for children, just specialty schools for children who have problems in one way or another. So they're a real part of the education system. I've seen them deal, well, the most heartbreaking thing is child abuse. And that's an ever-ending problem. I mean, not just a problem, a real blot on the whole world as far as we're concerned. And healthcare is so difficult. We just worked on a referendum. I'm not on the board now. I thought I was getting out of politics when I left in 2006, but we're working hard on indigent care, and they forget that children are a real part of that. It's not just somebody walking around with a cane like me at 88 years old. It's all about giving those children a quality of life, and it seemed ridiculous to me that we couldn't do that, but they seem to think that perhaps we had a bigger duty to provide more roads and more of this, and we do have to have public safety. But public safety includes making your child's life safe. And it's always disturbing, because what more wonderful gift do we have in life than to be able to either have children of your own or work with children and learn from them. That's where we fail many times. They've got a lot to share with us if we do it.
And so many of those children, can't help where they're born into the homes that they're in. And for them to have that opportunity to be able to grow, and that there's hope.
Yes, and we've had, I could name in the last 6 months, I could name front page news that had to do with children directly being murdered and abuse to the edge of murder. And it's tragic. I always used to say we ought to have a license before we can have a kid, but how impractical that thinking is. But certainly, getting the knowledge or getting the information out in a community, information referral is the number one problem in social services. And transportation, those three things. It's something that's always drummed into the heads of social workers and if you can't get the information out there and you don't have a network of people who communicate with each other, it's not turf problem. It becomes a turf problem. People don't share information. It's a difficult thing. But I still get back to the matter of health, because every little thing that goes wrong in the day in a child's life that looks like he's not feeling well or she's not doing well can all be traced back to family or how they're being taken care of, how they're being treated. I know we work hard to try to figure out how our children can get a better education and stimulate their interests. The children are naturally curious, so I don't think that's a big problem. Being attractive to them is important, but public health is so serious, and being supportive of our education system, our schools, and the teachers that do this kind of work.
And the awareness, and I talked a little bit to Dr. Isaac earlier, and others that said, it's just the awareness and educating in the schools so people can feel free to get the help that they need.
Yes, and we also have to educate the public on the things got kind of bad for a while, where people were afraid to talk to a child because it looked like it might be a child molester. We train our children not to talk to strangers and so on. But there are ways in which you can do that very carefully if you see a child having a problem. Big topic that's been abroad recently is bullying and children being hurt by other children. Or right now, the big swarm of racist concerns have come down and hurt our children. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Adults should be able to handle those things if they want to, punch somebody out and go on your way if you want to be that kind of a person. But children do not need to hear this. They do not need to hear the hate and the things that spew out of people disappointed. And I suppose it goes with poverty, and again with indigent care. So they're all a massive thing, and each organization has tried to take on their own goal. But I know what they feel when, at the end of the day, they feel like they can't even scratch the surface. There are so many problems in regard to this, and It's I have to say though that there's a good number of wonderful programs in the community, so at least we're keeping some of the kids happy and well. But we all turn our heads when we read the bad headlines in things. So there's a place for everybody to contribute, whether it's money or whether it's understanding, or of the right referral to the right people.
And Pat, what would you like people to take away from this evening? You've had so much involvement with Manatee Children's Services.
Well, I know that the major problem factor for people trying to run organizations is funding, the amount of money they have. And then again, on the other hand, we say we want less government, we want less of this, and I heard that all the time, whether you're conservative or liberal or whatever it is. I think the word LOVE doesn't fit in either one of those two categories. You either feel that way about your community or not. So we encourage people to stand up for things like that we have a special tax for children's services to meet some of the gaps in the services, and organizations and foundations here that are very generous and work very hard at what they do. But I hope that we can come away with having respect for the family and understanding that people who are out of work and homeless, and we've got, I think what's really stunning are the amount of homeless children we have in our own county. And you can find them around the trash barrels in back of the supermarket. I never believed it till I got out in the street. Until you get out there at night and whatever. My biggest experience with that was when we worked with the AIDS Council a number of years ago, and I was out there trying to find out who the culprits were. But I became more interested not in what the stupid adults are doing, in the, why are you out here in the middle of the night selling drugs? But when you saw children who were not eating and not home, and it's alive, it's happening.
And it's sad, and so many people just don't want to look at that or see that or help.
We have a tremendous number of people. I'm sure we'll see a lot of them tonight. We'll see a lot of them in the future, and I'm afraid if I say one, I'll lose somebody, because some of those organizations I have worked with directly when we were trying to, as elected officials, trying to get something done, and always wanted to be the go-to person. I didn't mind that at all. I was happy. It's elected office gives you a jumping off start, place where you can be of help. If you just have to take the time, listen, and get around. And as we say, get that network going and have people. That's what's nice about sharing tonight with everybody.
Well, Pat, thank you so much for spending time and for all you have done and are doing for our community. We appreciate it.
Well, I'm sorry I couldn't pull it together more glibly, but it's a big topic. It's a huge topic, and we could spend hours on any one of those topics, any one of them. Thank you. I appreciate you, Jim.
Yeah, thanks so much. Have a great evening. We're here with the legendary Billy Rice at the Neptune Bash. Billy, and you're going to be playing for us tonight.
Well, I am. We've worked with Manatee Children's Services for about 18 years now, and I was on their board and everything, and we haven't done this event in a few years, so they asked me if I would come back this year and do the event, and we're glad to be here.
Tell me a little bit about what you've done with Manatee Children's Services.
Well, over the years, when I first got involved with them, I have a business too, and we helped them build a shelter home, and we've done cleanups on yards. I've worked with kids. I've taken the kids out in my boat. I've done so many charity events for them. And then last week I had a new record come out, and I donated the record to them, and they got all the money from the record. I didn't even take the money from what it cost to make it or anything. And there was like 600 people here about a week or so ago here, and so we raised a lot of money for the charity there. So Melinda and her whole staff, I've worked with them, like I said, 18 years. So
So the new records,
Yeah.
can people still get it and be able to, have those funds come to the Manatee Children's Services?
Well, the night of the record release was for them. I have someone selling the record, and it's on iTunes, it's on Amazon, it's CD Baby, YouTube, everything. So it's out there in Never Never Land now. But all the money that night went to Manatee Children's Services, and we're so glad to do that kind of thing for them.
That's just powerful for them. And we talked to Gigi earlier. 10,000 children that are impacted every year.
Yeah, well, we've done so many events for them and raised so much money, but there's never enough money. There's always another child to help, whatever it is. And this is dear to my heart because I was kind of like in that situation when I was young, and so it just is something that I have inside of me.
Well, I know they appreciate you helping, and we can't wait to hear you this evening.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks for all you do, Billy.
Thank you.
We're here at the Neptune Bash with David, Watchdog Miner. David, great for you to be here this evening.
It's wonderful to be here. It's a great occasion, to help raise some funds and celebrate Manatee Children's Services, which is just a fabulous organization, which is doing great things to help abused and neglected children and prevent abuse and neglect of our children.
And you've been with them from the beginning.
Just about, and going back over 30 years, and it's really an honor, privilege. Carol Chamberlain was our founder. Her husband, Don, was on a church board with me. I was chair of the Board of Trustees, and he asked me to join with Carol on a board for Manatee Children's Services. And back then we were doing rummage sales, to raise money. And we finally got some government funding. Carol and I went to Tampa and filed a protest that Manatee children of Manatee County deserved abuse and neglect services. And that got our first funding. And then we got a little bit of county funding and hired an executive director. And it's blossomed, since then. And we have great leadership in Manatee Children's Services. I'm really proud to be associated with it.
And so you've seen, the past 30 years, such a impact on our community and changes in this organization.
Oh, yes. And Melinda and Gigi and the other heads are doing a great job. It's an accredited, charity. They go through all sorts of auditing so that the money is used well. And they have a great staff. And it is a never-ending problem, but in terms of addressing it, Manatee Children's Services, does a wonderful job.
And if there's one thing that you would like people to take away from this evening, what would that be, David?
Well, children are most important, to our future and our community. It's very important that they help the those who need the most help, and those are abused and neglected children. And the community providing financial support for the efforts here is always needed. Please support Manatee Children's Services.
And give our children hope.
Give our children help.
Thank you so much for all you've done over the past 30 years.
Thank you so much. Appreciate being here.
Thank you.
I wanted to thank everyone for coming here this evening at the Neptune Seaside Bash, hosted by Manatee Children's Services. There are a couple of key people that I want to introduce that want to say a few words this evening. And that is one of Bill Tokacher over in the corner, as well as Melinda Thompson. Bill is the president of Manatee Children's Services Board, and Bill has also been on the board since 1993. Bill has had a lifetime of serving the public. He has a degree in theology and has been a career law enforcement guy. So in saying that, I think it's pretty safe to say that with Bill Tokacher, there is no separation of church and state. He knows what it means. With training and experience from agencies such as the FBI National Academy, the Southern Police Institute, the State of Florida Criminal Justice, Law Enforcement, and Correctional Academy, as well as serving in our United States Army as an officer in the military police. Bill is also decorated. He holds a Purple Heart for being shot in the line of duty. He holds a Medal of Valor. And he's also been honored with being an Officer of the Year. Those are just to name a few that culminate into what his day job is, which is just merely being the chief of police at nearby Holmes Beach. Hailing from Newark, New Jersey, with his lovely wife Thea and their two beautiful kids, Christina and Valerie, it is my pleasure to introduce a man of honor and character, and for me, what's most important is I call him friend, Bill Tokacher.
I want to thank everybody for coming. This organization is near and dear to my heart. I've been the president of the board for many years. I couldn't do what I do with Manatee Children's Services without our executive director, Melinda, who's right here. And if you're a member of the staff for Manatee Children's Services, please stand up so that you can be recognized. You guys are amazing. They work for these kids every day. Their hearts are huge for what they do for the children of Manatee County. I know I see a lot of familiar faces that have been to our country night event and some of our other night events. You like the new venue? Yes? Amalia, right here. Thanks to Amalia, she put this all together. Amazing job. We want you guys to remember to bid on all the items. We also have our raffle that's going on till 9:30, Amalia? 9:30? Huh? Okay. So make sure that you... Huh? She's at the table. There you go. That's the raffle table. Oh, and we have a lot of different things that are going on. Please enjoy your evening. Enjoy the food. We also have board members that I see here. If you're a board member for Manatee Children's Services, stand up to be recognized, please. Jesse over here. John. We thank you guys. You guys are amazing. Oh, show your necklace. There you go. That's the raffle necklace right there. Thank you guys, and I'm going to have Melinda come up and speak.
No, you're not, Bill. Melinda's got a deep voice. That's that voice I said you're going to really be sick of by the end of the night. Well, I got to tell you guys, I grabbed the microphone because I think it's very important to give a proper introduction to this young lady. I say young lady because, boy, she is looking young, that's for sure, and smoking hot, I might say. Huh? Melinda is a dear friend of mine, by the way, and has been for many, many years. I'm not so sure that it's proper to introduce somebody with a question. But I can tell you that this particular question is the question that Melinda asks herself every night before she goes to bed. It's the question that keeps her awake at night, and it's the same question that she thinks about as her feet hit the floor every single morning. And it's simply, what is the right thing to do for these kids? It's a pretty broad question. It's one of which that has many answers. It's one of which that moves with the period and with the way things go and all of the different things that they have going on. So, Melinda's the CEO of a nonprofit organization. They're CEOs of major corporations in America that are for-profit that have similar questions, right? But they have a small group of stakeholders and they have a large group of shareholders. For Melinda, her shareholders are in this room. We're the shareholders. But the stakeholders are lives. They're the lives of children, families, the people that, again, are the most vulnerable in our society that they have to touch every day. And if they don't do that, nobody else will. Melinda is a Florida native. from Lakeland, Florida. She's got her degree from Mercer University. She is in her 18th year at Manatee Children's Services, where she first started out as the director of the emergency shelter. When you think of what Melinda does on a day in and day out basis, I don't want you to sit there and cry for what she does and how hard she works. But if you do shed a tear for the thousands of people that she has touched over the years, then you've probably been moved in the right direction. With that, Melinda Clark Thompson.
Randy. That was very nice. Very, very nice of Lee J. And I just really appreciate everybody coming tonight. I have something that has been written that I'm not probably going to follow now. But I do appreciate everybody coming. This organization means so much to me, but also to all the staff that you saw stand up. The lives that are saved because of our organization are because of the people that stood up in this room. It's not just me. I have a privilege, and it's to work with them. So I really, really hope that you have a wonderful time tonight. It isn't about sadness. It's about hope and helping. I did want to point out one thing that is so important to me. Amalia has really changed this thing up for us. I don't know if how many of you guys have come to Country Night. We've done that for about 16 years, and this year Billy made a suggestion that we sort of change the face of what we were doing, and we've arrived here, and we've arrived because of Amalia and her spectacular, creative, wonderful, artsy stuff that I don't understand but very much appreciate. She actually put makeup on me earlier, if you can believe that. And I let her. But I really am thankful for all of you coming, and I'm going to turn it back over to Lee J. He's a lot better at the mic than I am, but thank you.
Thanks, Mel. We have a guest speaker this evening who also represents exactly why we're here and what she has done. Jenna Quinn comes to us from the great state of Texas. For any of those who don't know where that is. But Jenna is a longtime activist for child victims, and she's been doing so for the last 11 years. I say 11 years because it was 11 years ago as a 17-year-old that she decided that she would go public with her story and that she would talk about the abuse that she suffered as an adolescent, and she would set a course for being able to break the chain that she experienced with abuse. But you know what? She didn't do it as a victim. She didn't say, woe's me, and feel bad for me. She took a different approach. She said she wanted to do it as a victor. She wanted to overcome this. She wanted to take child abuse, and she wanted to punch it right square in the mouth. And she did that. She continued to go on a path. Obviously, her degree, master's degree in communications, and the fact that she's a prolific speaker and someone who is just charismatic, and we're going to find that out later. She went on and she basically got what is known as Jenna's Law passed in 2009. Jenna's Law basically, I'm going to let her speak to most of this, so I don't want to screw up her shtick, but is essentially going into the school systems and making people aware of the signs that they need to see and understand that if you've got a situation on your hands that you can rectify or start to nip in the bud early, that you can have a program in place that dictates that that will happen. It won't be happen chance that one individual sees something and maybe not even know where to go. This individual now has a path of doing that. As late as 2014, Jenna has taken her cause all the way up to the highest levels of education within the state of Texas. And now today, Jenna's law cascades down to child care, down to foster care, child placement, and then all the way up to universities. So when you start to think about this system and this idea of being able to have people aware at any given point throughout the educational system and taking kids, Quay, from 8 and younger through 18 and up to 26, Jenna Quinn is the person who we can thank for that. With that, Jenna Quinn.
Thank you. Or should I say howdy, y'all? Howdy. I like some of that howdy out there. I've actually already gotten the chance to meet a few Texans in the room, so I'm real happy about that. But I've already decided, and I haven't even asked my husband, but I'm pretty determined we're going to probably buy some property here because it's just so beautiful. My first time here, I got in late last night from Michigan, and it was cold and 50 degrees. Woo! And then I come here and it's hot, and I'm thinking, where am I? What's happening? But needless to say, I think it's a fantastic community, and I've been nothing but impressed with everyone that I've met so far, and especially everyone that's in this room, because everyone that's in this room is here because you care about children. Whether you know what the Manatee Children's Center does, or maybe you have kind of an idea about what it does, but either way, you're here because you have a good heart and you have a compassionate heart. So the first thing I want to say is just to thank all of you just for being here tonight. And, I don't have much time, so I'm going to talk as quickly as possible and, just try to stay with me. We all know that child abuse is not a fun topic. It's not fun at all. And most people just want to plug their ears up when it comes to addressing this topic. But I really have a lot to say about the Children's Advocacy Centers because, 11 years ago, I sought services at the Advocacy Centers, and, I was in really, really bad shape when I walked through the doors of the center. My options were Green Oaks Mental Hospital. My bags were packed. I was ready to go to this mental hospital, or the Advocacy Center. And, I came from a really loving family. I wasn't what you would call at risk, like most children who, come in for certain services or are reported to CPS. I wasn't an at-risk child. I came from a very loving and very supportive family. So supportive that, I can't really say I've ever had a holiday or a birthday where I didn't feel like I was loved. And my mom actually is a teacher, and she taught at the private school that I went to, starting in 2nd grade. And if there's any teachers' kids in here, you know that you can't really get away with much without Mom knowing. She had her eye on my 2 sisters and I very, very closely. And we went to church every Sunday as a family. We went on bike rides with Dad, my 2 sisters and I. And, back when we had VHS tapes, my mom used to make all these VHS videos of us just, hanging out as a family, eating dinner together, and just spending quality time together. And, things started to change when I went into the 2nd grade and started attending this private Christian school. And for those of you who are familiar with private school education and, private school, it is a very, very, usually generally small network of people. And I became best friends with someone, and my older sister also became best friends with their sibling. So my sister and I are best friends with siblings, and their mom also works at this private school. So how great is this? We all get to hang out together. We all spend lots of time together. And, before we know it, we're carpooling and going on family vacations together. Her her mom works with my mom, and we're all just having lots of fun. Christmas, Thanksgiving, 4th of July, I mean, you name it, we were hanging out with this family. And, I never would have guessed that someone who was like a father to me would sexually abuse me for years and years and years. And after the first incident, I knew I would never be the same. I didn't feel like the innocent girl that I grew up thinking I was. And I minimized the event so much, and I told myself that it wasn't a big deal, and I pushed it back far into my mind, and I minimized it, and I minimized it, and I told myself, it's not going to happen again. It's not going to happen again. This is the last time. But I was wrong. It continued for years. And unfortunately, over 90% of the time, a child is sexually abused by someone that they know. But not only know, they also trust this person 90% of the time. See, perpetrators use this relationship as a deposit for the child's silence. It's very difficult. How could I tell? How on earth could I tell my best friend that their father is a monster? How could I tell his sweet wife, who I know and see every day, and I watch her kiss her husband at the end of the day when he comes home from work? How can I tell her who her husband really was? And as this burden of carrying this secret got worse and worse, I developed severe depression because I tried to cope with it on my own. I thought I could handle it myself. And most survivors feel this way. They feel like they have to keep it all in, and they're usually protecting the people that they care about. They're protecting the people around them because they don't want others to feel betrayed as well. I developed severe depression, severe insomnia, especially developed a low self-worth, and most survivors do. They feel abandoned. They don't feel like they are valued. They don't feel like they deserve love, especially. And it got so bad that I went from straight A's to practically failing. I stopped going to school. I couldn't go to school. I was very close to truancy. I was an all-star basketball player with possible college scholarships, and I started to care less and less about my future, and especially, the worst of all, I felt that God had abandoned me. I didn't feel like I was worth God's protection. I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, severe depressive disorder, insomnia, and anxiety for flashbacks and panic attacks. And the psychiatrist told my father to remove his handgun from the home because I was going to use it on myself. I was planning to. And unfortunately, the harsh reality is 4,300 teenagers, we're only talking about teenagers here, actually succeed in ending their lives a year. And the worst part about this evil crime of sexual assault is that in most cases, the person responsible for that suicide is at the funeral. And in my case, he would have been there. He would have been there asking my dad, asking my mom, asking my parents if there's anything he can do to help, if there's any way he can help. And no one would have ever known that that is what was going on, that that was the reason for my suicide. 2 different times as this sexual assault occurred throughout the years, I was rushed to the emergency room because I broke out in hives, horrible hive blisters after 2 incidents of sexual assault. That's how my body reacted in stress. And my parents, they were so frustrated. They couldn't not, for the life of them, figure out what was wrong with me. I mean, they'd worked so hard. They'd worked so hard and made sacrifices to send me to a private school so that I could learn, good biblical morals and have the top-of-the-line education. And they'd worked so hard all their lives to keep me from this type of risk. And they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. So they ran all kinds of tests. They tested me for allergies. They tested my anemic levels. Maybe they thought because I had, depression and low energy, maybe I was anemic. They tested for my thyroid. And nothing ever checked out. They could never figure out what was wrong. And I could never tell them because I'd rather myself be hurting. I figured I could handle it versus my parents also hurt. My best friend also hurt. The other people that I cared about in my lives, I thought I was protecting them. And most of these victims that have been through this crime, they feel as though they want to protect other people from betrayal. And that's why perpetrators, they can go into a room and they can pick their victims. They usually pick the peacemakers. They usually pick the sweet, humble, meek ones, the positive ones that, have a really good outlook on life because they feel very confident in their manipulation strategies that they can threaten that child enough so that they won't say anything at all. And my older sister, she knew that there was something wrong with me. She didn't know what. She had gone away to college. And she knew there was something terribly wrong. So one Christmas, we had spent Christmas Eve with my perpetrator and their family, as we normally did. We spent Christmas Eve and Christmas Day with them, which was normal. And then the day after Christmas, my older sister said, you know what? I think we should have a girls' lunch. I think we should hang out and spend some time together. So I thought, oh my goodness, this is so excited. I'm going to get to spend time with my older sister. And she takes me out, not knowing that she had ulterior motives for this lunch date. She takes me to lunch, and we're so excited. We're hanging out. We just put our food order in, and all of a sudden, her tone completely changes. And she looks me dead in the eye, and she says, Jenna, I'm going to ask you a question, and you have to promise to tell me the truth. And I thought, oh my gosh, she saw that I got mustard on her shirt and I put it back in her closet in the wrong place. Like, what could have been so bad? I mean, maybe she noticed I took her new shoes out for a stroll, and, anybody with sisters in here knows that, the clothes, they rotate. I think she still probably has some of my clothes to this day, but, that's just the kind of relationship that we had, and I'm thinking, well, whatever it is, we can get past this. We can work through whatever the issue is. And then I said, okay, I promise. Lay it on me, what do you got? And she asked me point blank, she said, has anyone ever hurt you? And without saying a word, I gave her an answer, and I broke down into uncontrollable tears right there at the restaurant. And she knew at that point that something was going on. And the server kept avoiding us and avoiding us and avoiding us for the longest time. And, after I was finally able to catch my breath, she said, well, who? You have to tell me who. And I still didn't want to say anything because I knew she would also be hurt. And I cared about my older sister. And I didn't want her to feel the betrayal that I had felt from this person who was like our father. And I said, okay, I told you yes, but I cannot tell you who it is. You know this person very well, and there's just no way. I'll tell you when I'm out and away and I'm off at school. We'll just wait. And most survivors wait to tell. And unfortunately, more survivors than that never, ever disclose about their past. They never disclose, and they never tell anyone about some of the things that they've gone through, and they keep that secret. They keep that burden, and they don't get the help that they need. And so when I finally told her who it was, her jaw dropped to the floor. And when she realized her reaction, she didn't want to freak me out by her reaction, so she put her hand over her mouth and tried to hide the fact that she was so shocked. But the important thing is that she believed me. She believed me, and she said, you know what? We're telling Mom and Dad tonight, and this isn't going to happen to you anymore. This is going to stop. And I was still resistant. No, don't tell Mom and Dad. Please don't tell Mom and Dad. It would break their hearts. But she wasn't going to have it. So that night, we called a family meeting, and it was the first family meeting we'd ever called, by the way. My parents were like, oh, this is kind of cute. What do you guys have to say? You know, I mean, we had dinners together every night. We talked openly. You know, there was no need to ever call family meetings. So they were like, okay, what is this about, like New Year's resolutions? You know, what's going on? Because this was the day after Christmas I made my outcry. And, you know, I had such a hard time telling them. And even still, my sister had to set me up for it. She was like, Jenna has something to say. And I thought, okay. And it was like pulling teeth because this was the very moment I had been dreading. So many children are afraid to tell because of fear and because of shame, the shame involved, the isolation that's involved. They're afraid to tell, and they don't want to hurt other people. So for the first time now, I'd been minimizing it all this time, trying to cope with it on my own. So now for the first time, I had to face head on all of these suppressed emotions, all of these suppressed memories. I was forced to face them. And when I told my parents, there's no words. There's no words for how they felt. Devastated, heartbroken, betrayed. It took everything my father had in him not to walk straight over there because they lived 5 minutes away from us. They lived in the neighborhood right across from us. That's why we got into a lot of carpooling situations, and he would find lots of ways to get me alone because we were neighbors. And it took everything my dad had in him. Imagine someone who you think is your best friend doing something like that to your child. I mean, is there anything more important, anything more valuable to a parent than their child? So after we called the police, that's when the Advocacy Center stepped in. Because the biggest question I had, and especially my parents, the biggest question we all had was, what do we do now? What do we do? What is the next step? How do we fix ourselves? How do we fix this situation? How do we go back to the way things were? And that's what the Advocacy Center helped for. I mean, when I went in there, I felt love. I felt support. I felt a sense of community. I felt a sense of belonging. I didn't feel like I was the only one going through what I was going through. And I got one-on-one counseling there. And I got group counseling. I got to go into group counseling with other girls that were experiencing a lot of the same things that I was experiencing. And only survivors would know this, but one of the worst feelings about sexual assault is just this feeling of isolation. And you just feel like no one understands what you're going through. But these other girls in the girls group, they did understand. And then when we decided to press charges, they also helped with court preparation. It's very, very traumatic for most kids to sit on a witness stand like this, and the perpetrator is just a few feet away from them, staring them down as they try to rehash all of these horrible memories. It's a very traumatic experience for a child to go to court and have to stand and say and rehash all of these things by giving their testimony again. And I also saw that my parents were going through a really horrible time, and they were going through different things and feelings of guilt just as parents normally would. And they had parent counseling groups as well at the Advocacy Center. So not only I was the one that got help, but they also were able to go in and talk with other parents about their frustrations. Because I always say there's the primary victim, like myself, who is directly affected by the crime, and then you always, always, always have secondary victims, like my perpetrator's sweet wife. And you have secondary victims like my parents, and the other people who are hurt by just one person's evil actions. And you know, the Advocacy Center's support was so crucial because the private Christian school that we went to treated us differently after I self-disclosed. And I was asked to leave my junior year of high school when I had grown up with these kids since second grade. I was asked to leave. So I didn't get to graduate with all of my friends that I'd known since second grade. I ended up going to an alternative school where there were no extracurricular activities. There were no dances to go to. There were no sports for me to play. It was a very, very dark time, but the Advocacy Center provided me with a sense of community and a starting place for healing. And for a child who has been abused, it is very, very hard work to go into counseling and talk about these experiences and talk about all of the feelings that they try to suppress down. And unfortunately, children who do experience these things, they don't believe, they don't trust people normally. For most kids, they like to hear, you can do anything you want to do with your life, and you can be anything you want to be when you grow up. But that doesn't apply to a child with a broken spirit. They have to start from the beginning with trusting. And that's what the Advocacy Center brought for me. Because these children, they grow up to be adults, and these adults have open wounds, and our society is filled with them. Children need to know that their experiences were traumatic, and they should never be told to just get over it or put it behind them. They can have their experiences validated at the Advocacy Center, possibly when no one else will ever validate it for them. I was grateful enough to have a supportive family, but the truth of the matter is that a lot of the times this is happening within the home and it separates families. But at least they can get that support at the Advocacy Center. And there were times when I wanted to walk out of those counseling doors at the center because it was too hard. It was too much work to have to go back with all those memories. But you know what? Even though I wanted to quit and I wanted to give up on my healing process, the center never gave up on me. They always understood, and they always met me right where I was at. And with their help, and with the help of the multidisciplinary team, with the prosecutors and the investigators and the counselors, everybody working hard on my behalf, my perpetrator was sentenced to 20 years in prison without parole. Thank you. It's truly a one-stop place for healing and justice. You know, they don't have to go see several counselors and psychologists like I do. All they have to do is go to the Advocacy Center, and everything is there for them. And today, because of the Advocacy Center, I have no idea where I would be. I truly don't know. I might be dead. I might be in a mental hospital. There's no telling. So we really are talking about a matter of life or death for these children. And Jenna's Law and my entire healing process would not have been possible without the support of the Advocacy Center. And I am just one person. One person. Imagine what these kids who get the proper help through the center, imagine the things that they will go on to do, the talents that they have when they're restored, when they're fully capable to understand who they are as a person and their abilities. But sadly, most children never get the chance to experience the healing and the justice that I experienced, because unfortunately a lot of these cases don't get prison sentences. But we need to change that. And the Advocacy Center is the only hope they have. And hope is the anchor for the soul. And we need to do everything we can to put the wind back in these kids' sails. We need to do everything we can to plant seeds of hope. And with your help, that can start tonight. Because we can't ask these kids, we can't ask them to heal themselves, and we certainly can't ask them to fix themselves, because I tried that. They simply cannot. So please join me in helping these kids. get their lives back. Thank you.
Jenna Quinn. I don't know really what to say after that, other than the fact that again, this is why we're here tonight, folks. So I thank you, Jenna, for making the long trip to Manatee County and to share your story and to certainly help Manatee Children's Services the way you have, not only with advice, giving tidbits on how we can change things in our area, very similar to what you have in yours.
We're here with Quay Taylor. Quay, tell me a little bit about how Melinda has impacted your life.
Well, it first started with she met me homeless. I was sitting there by her little chair, by a little chair bench, and then she pulled up, and then she seen me homeless, and I was just sitting there looking all lonely and stuff like that, and she just asked me if I needed help with anything. At first, I was just shy, and I was like, nah, I'm good. And then she was like, she just kept coming to me, asking me if I need food or anything like that, So I was like, yeah, sure. I was like, yeah. So she helped me out with water and stuff. She introduced me to herself. I introduced myself. And we just caught eye contact, She seen something that was in me, for me to be, I can do better than what I was doing now, you know what I'm saying? She seen me, I can be a better person. So she gave me a card number, and ever since then, we've been on to it, She done helped me get a job, just helped me pick up on my feet, it feels good to have her in my life,
Hey guys, I got to tell you, we're going into the next part of the auction that is going to raise, or the event that is going to raise our numbers significantly. We're excited about this.
Wow, what a powerful speech that you did, and I could see it in the audience. The tears, the emotions, the impact that you're making on people's lives.
It really, really is such a large moment of purpose, and I have to tell you, there is no greater joy than to see evil and its damage destroyed. There were a lot of people with just alligator tears, a lot of sniffles, it's a very emotional topic for a lot of people to think about and address if they maybe possibly have gone through something like that. And statistics tells us there's a lot of people in the room that have gone through something like this.
Well, and the courage that you have to bring it to the public.
It really, it takes everything that I have to really make sure that the community understands just how prevalent sexual assault is, just how prevalent sexual abuse is. I mean, and a lot of people, unfortunately, don't believe that it happens in their community. They think that because their kids go to a private school or because their kids go to, church every Sunday, because their neighborhood has a gated community, they think that their child is safe, and unfortunately, that's simply just not true. We were a very close family growing up. My mom taught at the school that I went to. They went to every game I had. They they always were involved in my life. So I was not an at-risk child. And I think the big stereotype out there is that this happens to at-risk children, and it's simply not the case. Sexual abuse has no favoritism towards economic status or color or race or religion. It happens everywhere.
And Mom, Kelly, a lot that you've had to deal with. And tell me a little bit about how you went through those emotions.
Well, understanding that my daughter had nothing to be ashamed of herself, that being able to have the freedom to talk to her family honestly and believing my daughter was key factor, not putting the blame anywhere else other than on the perpetrator or the person who was taking advantage of her and creating this crime against her. So putting the blame where the blame is due on the person who is creating the pain. And so supporting her was the first part of her healing and getting her to understand that she had nothing to be ashamed of, that the shame needed to go on the person who was inflicting the pain upon her. And so by the family support, by giving her the love and the encouragement that she needed to heal in the process and the time that it would take, and knowing that regardless of what she was feeling and experiencing, that we were going to walk with her and be with her and care for her regardless of how long it would take for the healing to take place, whether there was justice or not. Many victims don't get the justice that they're due, but it's okay because our concentration was on her healing and watching her be back to the daughter that we knew the personality and the person that we knew that who she really was, because the changes that took place in her personality were a result of the abuse that she was experiencing. So we knew there was something wrong with her, but we just didn't know what was wrong. And so it took, years of taking her to doctors and taking her to educational diagnosticians, trying to figure out why are her grades falling, why is she breaking out in hives, why has she become depressed, why has she started cutting herself, why is she wearing dark colors and retreating and isolating herself, why has she become sullen, why is she not sleeping at night, why does she wake up with insomnia, not being able to sleep because of insomnia, the secretiveness that she had in her life. All of those are part of many signs and symptoms that children have when they're feeling ashamed, when they're feeling depressed, when they're feeling sick at heart and they're broken inside, but they don't know how to express it. And so if somebody had just made me aware of the signs and symptoms of sexual abuse, I would have been able to at least ask the questions that needed to be asked. I need to say to her, Jenna, is somebody hurting you? And even if she denied it, to continue to ask those questions. Because many times sexual abuse victims will not disclose the first time you ask them. And you have to go back and ask those hard questions again before they feel safe enough to trust you to share what's happening in their life.
And as an educator, what would you tell people, out there to really be aware of?
Yes. As an educator, this is my 26th year in education, and all those years that my daughter was in school and was experiencing the pain of the abuse, I was, again, teaching school at the time, and yet I never recognized that what my daughter was going through were signs of sexual abuse. And so after she made her outcry and somebody gave me a pamphlet with signs and symptoms, I was like, oh my gosh, she has 9 of these 12 symptoms. And so not only did I not see it in my own family, I wasn't recognizing and knowing what to look for in a classroom of children. And so as an educator, I thought, my gosh, if the statistics out there are as prevalent as they have now become known to be, 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys, then I have a classroom of children sitting there with some hurting children, some hurting hearts. And so I need to be aware as an educator that these children are not going to make their outcries by themselves, that we need to put the responsibility on the adults who care for them on a daily basis, whether it's their teachers, their pastors, their other family members that are within their immediate friendships and friend circles, that we need to know, we need to get conversations started, and we need to be able to look at children and protect them the best we can by knowledge.
Absolutely, and I would say just watching the two of you, the connection and all the support that you had to go through together, and the opportunity that Child Advocacy is much like Manatee Children's Services does to help, like you said, not only people of other social economics, but it's behind the gates. And it's
and you know, not every child is believed. A lot of the times they're not believed by whoever they make their outcry to, but at least the Manatee Children's Center is there to believe the child. They're there to get help for that child, if it's food, if it's clothing, if it's counseling services, if it's just simply giving them a stuffed animal to take home with them. The Manatee Children's Center is there. And even if they don't have anyone that believes them, the Manatee Children's Center will.
Well, thank you both for spending time with us this evening. What an inspiration you are to others to give people hope. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're wrapping it up here at the Neptune Bash. I want to thank Jenna and her mom for sharing their story tonight. What a powerful, powerful story it was. And if you want to know how you can help Manatee Children's Services, please contact them. I'm Veronica Rogers, and thanks so much for joining us this evening.